All right, so settling into your meditation posture. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze if you're more comfortable having your eyes a little open. And just noticing right away what comes up. When you close your eyes, there's this immediate shift in perception, and sometimes you notice your body, notice some sensation or something about the way you're holding your body. Or maybe you notice your mood or some thought, just to acknowledge that. And just feeling your body breathing. You don't have to focus really closely on that, but more just kind of feeling how chest is rising and the breath is coming in and out. And then with that movement of breath, letting the body relax. Soften the belly. Release the shoulders. Relax the jaw. And the beginning of meditation is a process. It's a kind of entering into a different mental attitude. And it's not always easy or smooth, so it takes a little patience, a little tolerance of discomfort if there is some. Well, sometimes it can be just an immediate relief. Oh, if we've been very busy and running around, and just to get to stop, a kind of moment. It's helpful to just notice if there's a mental state or a mood that's dominant right now. What are you feeling? Maybe it's something very clear and specific, or it might be something more vague. You don't have to grasp onto that. Just notice if there's something there. Particularly something that might disturb the mind, make it more difficult to sit. And with that kind of opening and settling, and to start to direct the attention to a closer in to the breath. You can feel the sensations at the nostrils, touch of air coming in and out. Or if it's easier, just to feel the movement of the belly rising, falling. It's natural that thoughts will take you away from the breath. We don't have to struggle with them, but just notice when you come out of a thought, and then you can gently come back to the breath. We want to bring a quality and an attitude of kindness, gentleness to ourselves, to our mind. Just that kindness to accompany the mindfulness. So that when the mind does wander, there isn't a judgment or struggle, frustration with that, just an acknowledgement of that natural movement. Perhaps a tautology to say that if we are undisturbed by our thoughts, then our thoughts will not disturb us. But this is the idea, really. The idea of how to work with thoughts in our meditation. And this doesn't mean that we just give up in making an effort, or that we just drift off into daydreams. There's still a strong determination to stay with the breath. It's just that it's not driven by judgment or, kind of aggressiveness or competitiveness. It's really guided by wisdom, the wisdom of freedom, how freedom comes from letting go. We are doing this to be good, to improve ourselves, but to free ourselves from the bonds of craving, aversion, resentment, delusion, dreaming, wishing. To know the freedom of reality, of being here in fullness. All right. So, one thing I learned over the last few weeks is that teaching helps me stay sane. The words if I'm writing too or something, the touristing doesn't keep me sane. So it's nice to be just back into just talking about Dharma. I will say that I did have among a lot of really lovely experiences. I guess this is a recording, and so just to tell the people on the recording that I just have come back from 3 weeks of travel in Ireland and Scotland and England, and one of the things that I learned, one travels and realizes how ignorant they are of other places, especially Americans, right? Because what do we need? We've got America. Why do we need anything else? I never could figure out the difference between the UK, Britain, and England. Now I know what they are. Wendy, thank you. Hello. Wendy is here from Wales. She was with me on Saturday, teaching in London. And so the UK is the whole Commonwealth, but it's the only difference is, well, actually, I'll start with Britain. Britain is the whole island that includes Wales and Scotland. And then England is just the country that's not on that island, that's not Wales. And then the UK includes Northern Ireland, and of course it used to include most of the rest of the world when the sun never set on the British Empire, as they used to say. But so it's now just the only addition from Britain is Northern Ireland. So that's it. So now I know that. But anyway, when I was in England, I went to visit Ajahn Amaro at his monastery, where he's the abbot, the Amaravati Monastery, which is a fantastic place, and they're investing in some upgrades that are significant. They've got some great support there, and so that was lovely. He just took me on a tour of the monastery and all the changes there, and then we had some time to just chat. And he's going to help me with my new book, so that's fantastic. But what was really super sweet was I walked then back into the market town where we were staying about 5 miles away. I walked back through one of the distinctive things there is the public access in between different people's properties. So walking through these fields and forests and just really beautiful walk back into this town. So that was kind of a high point among many. So today, talking about intention, really a good topic for recovery. And I didn't even really look at this section of the book, Burning Desire. I'll rather talk sort of about my present thinking about it. But so right intention is one of the components of the Eightfold Path. And it first of all, to connect it with the 12 steps, when we say we turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, our will is synonymous, at least in my thinking, with intention. So it's really about what we want to do? What are the underlying motivations behind our actions? And in Buddhist terms, actions or karma refers to thoughts as well as spoken words and actions and deeds. So thoughts, words, and deeds. And so the idea of turning your intention over to the care of the Dharma, shall we say, means we're trying to align our behaviors with the Dharma. And I think just that idea itself is a really helpful one in terms of, well, in many terms, but I've often found over my decades of recovery, in moments of sort of concern or worry about whether I was doing the right thing or how things were going to work out, I've often kind of been able to fall back on this feeling that, well, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm not trying to do something selfish or harmful here, and that might, this or that action or this or that situation might not work out the way I want, but that there's this kind of thrust or sort of through line to my life that I can trust, and that I'll be safe, that I'll be okay because have that underlying intention. And again, it doesn't mean that I've got some like perfect heart, that's always guided by wisdom and love, and it's not that at all. But that there is this basic positive attitude, and so I think of step 3 as very much depending upon that. That a lot of step 3 in the 12 steps, which says we turn our will and our lives. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him, But a lot of what that is about is letting go, is trusting that if we intend to do and then do the next right thing to the best of our ability and the best of our current understanding, that things will be okay. We might not get exactly what we want. It might not turn out exactly how we would like, but it will keep moving. Our lives will keep moving in a positive way. And so this idea of right intention is something that I have tremendous faith in, actually. And that, which I think is, again, sort of a vital idea, this idea of faith, because it's not a religious faith. It's not a belief in, a God figure. It's not even a faith like, oh, it's going to be great. It's that it's going to be okay. It's kind of my faith, not it's going to be perfect. So, and that, but that grain of faith is enough to relieve a tremendous amount of anxiety and fear, right? Because when we are caught in our sense of, I don't know, am I going to be okay? I'm afraid I'm doing the wrong thing. What am I supposed to do? And we're caught up in these sort of moments of fear and indecision that it can really bat us around in ways that make our lives so much more difficult. So having an innate faith in this simple idea of right intention and working from there just simplifies life in so many ways. So I want to talk then about what specifically right intention means in Buddhist terms, because it's really, it's got a nice sound to it, like, oh, I should do the right thing. But as usual with Buddhist teachings, there's something very specific the Buddha is referring to here. And he says that there are 3 kind of intentions or motivations that we should draw from in our thoughts, words, and actions. The first one is renunciation. Let's say letting go, non-attachment, non-clinging. Well, we can see how that relates to recovery, because that's the starting point of recovery, is renunciation. We don't usually use that word. That's kind of a very formal word in a very, kind of classical Buddhism. But letting go, yeah, that's something we're very familiar with. Non-attachment, non-clinging, non-addiction. Joseph Goldstein actually in one of his books says, I think a good word for non-attachment is non-addiction, so he's not in recovery. At least he doesn't, define himself as in recovery. So that's a great starting point to realize, one of the three motivating factors the Buddha suggested we should draw from is the one that's central to our recovery. I know about that, and I understand how powerful that can be around addiction. And so I guess what I might want to reflect on, since there's this teaching from the Buddha, is what other things should I let go of? Or in what other ways can I apply this principle of non-clinging or non-attachment, renunciation? And that I think does become, for many people in recovery, not they don't have to be Buddhists, this does become a motivation when we start to realize that beneath that primary addiction, there are very often other subtler, sometimes more pernicious addictions: food and sex, and spending and working and gambling, and attachment to technology, to phones, and to being online. And so we start to become aware of how clinging, grasping, holding on pervades our lives, and all the ways that it undermines our happiness, and how much it controls us. So when we talk about freedom in Buddhism, and I was talking about that in the guided meditation, when we talk about freedom, we're talking about not being controlled by these energies. So that's the first element of right intention. And the next two really have to do with love. There's loving kindness, and then there's compassion. These are, again, questions we can ask ourselves when we are observing our thoughts, observing our words, observing our actions. Am I thinking, speaking, acting out of love and compassion? Or am I acting out of, anger, resentment? And with the first one, am I acting out of self-centeredness? Or am I acting out of clinging? So here we have these principles, right? And they're very much recovery principles, right? Love and compassion, letting go of resentment, of anger. This is one of the core principles of 12-step work. I mean, the inventories themselves are often, it's suggested that we look at our resentments. This is hatred, right? This is the opposite of loving kindness. When we talk about, making amends, we're really talking about compassion, acting out of kindness towards those we've harmed. And so these principles they're not esoteric, they're very directly applicable to our lives in ways that can really be transformative. And the idea then is to kind of bring these principles into our lives in ways that we can remember to draw from them. And this then brings us back once again to mindfulness, because in order to act with right intention, we need to be mindful. This is the only way that we can know whether we are clinging or letting go, whether we are being loving or resentful, is by being aware, bringing mindfulness to our mental state, to our behavior, to our words. And then this becomes the really guiding energy and attitude of our lives is bringing mindfulness and attention, and then understanding what is going to bring about positive results, what's going to bring about negative results. So this is how the Eightfold Path works. It's really all built around and all depends upon mindfulness, is one of the elements of the Eightfold Path. We have to be aware, but it's not just to be aware, right? If we don't understand right intention, we can be completely aware of anger. We can be completely aware of clinging. So the mindfulness itself, as just a sort of a stripped down mindfulness, because could be unskillful. Now the scholars like Analayo and Bhikkhu Bodhi, tell us that right mindfulness in terms of the Eightfold Path actually can't be resentful. It can't be grasping. That's awareness, but it's not right mindfulness. Samasati, the Pali term for it. So this, gives us this context and really guidelines for living. And just as in a period of meditation where we sit down with an intention to be present and to follow the breath, and the mind wanders, and then we notice that and come back, in the same way in our daily lives, we will have the intention to act out of renunciation, love, and compassion. And then we will notice that we are not acting in that way, that we are, getting angry, that we are grasping, and those are critical moments, because clearly we want to let go and come back to our right intention, to our caring. But this is also, just as in meditation, a critical moment in terms of what the mind does when we notice that. When we notice that, oh, I'm really being a jerk, or I'm God, I'm really just craving so much, I'm just caught up in, do we then turn that against ourselves? And this is something very common, that we adopt these spiritual principles and then we start to use them against ourselves. This is very, not common. It's very common and also not necessary. I don't want to say I can say it's unskillful, but that can become just another way to beat yourself up for beating yourself up, and you can sort of come into this infinite regression of so it's so important to just be able to go, oh, well, that's natural. Oh yeah, of course I'm grasping. That's human. Because I became a Buddhist, or I took refuge, or I meditated, that doesn't mean that my humanity, which is driven by grasping, fear and all those things that are very instinctual and natural, doesn't mean those things are going to go away because I decided to be a spiritual person now. So there's this, balance then to how I hold that. Because we don't want to, on the other hand, go to the other extreme of, well, it's just the way it is, it's okay. Never mind, I'm not going to make any effort to let go. I'm not going to make any effort to stop being angry. Well, that's not helpful either, right? So this then brings us into the realm of right effort. As we discover with the Eightfold Path, nothing is separate. Everything is interwoven and depends upon each other. So the question of right effort, how do I skillfully follow right intention? Well, I make an effort and then I let go of the results. I fail and then I notice that, but I don't judge myself. I bring myself back. And in the whole process, there's no perfection. There's no end of the process. I mean, probably some people are better than others at it. And we can all kind of whatever, just know that we fall on a spectrum of goodness, but what's the point? It's not helping us to do that, to sort of even try to grade ourselves. So there we are, right intention. This simple idea of trying to be guided by skillful motivation. And we see that this simple idea becomes this, in certain ways, complex process, demanding process. The Buddhist path is not, not the easier, softer way. It's really, it puts tremendous challenges to us. And, it's something that I just feel so much in my own life. Feel my own shortcomings, and at the same time see and know the tremendous benefit that's come from being guided by these principles for several decades. So it again comes to this middle way of holding that. It in terms of daily practice, one of the things that I have noticed is that a little bit of mindfulness goes a long way. And this is, I think this is important to remember, because when we set up this idea of, I should try to be mindful all the time, and then maybe at the end of the day you do a little inventory and you realize, well, I was mindful for about 3 minutes today, there can be a tendency to think, well, that's useless, but actually interrupting the flow, those habitual instinctive flows of grasping, greed, hatred, and delusion, whatever you want to call it, interrupting that a few times in a day actually has a tremendous impact, both on like your stress level, on your clarity, and so it's really worth applying to even just a few times a day. This idea of stopping and taking 3 breaths that we sometimes hear, just those occasional moments. We spent the last 2 days in just traveling, constantly, hours and hours in airports and standing in lines. And, I mean, the easy part was just being on the plane, right? That's the rest of it. But I really felt like those few times when I would catch myself and, wearing my mask, which I find can actually help me to be more mindful of my breath, and then just taking a few breaths. Okay, this is really annoying. This is really frustrating. Okay, breathe, relax. And then I did have one bad moment where I got angry and it was really unpleasant. But it came and went very quickly, and and so I felt like, oh yeah, just that little bit of being present and just sort of being gentle with myself and with this experience really helped that. And look where it's brought me back home. So I'll open it up for comments, questions, any thoughts this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you may be in time. Okay, Steve, go ahead. I looked away. I was reading the chat.
First of all, welcome back. It's good to see you and good to listen to you. And over the past 3 weeks since you've been gone, I've been through 2 cataract surgeries and my final crown fitting for my 3rd implant. So you know all about that stuff. But I couldn't help but think back on first of all to describe to everybody. I know I mentioned this with one meeting that I could make on a Tuesday because all my surgery follow-ups were on Tuesdays. I kept missing the meetings, which was not fun. But it's kind of like watching, if you all remember watching television in the 1950s when you had an antenna on your house, compared to watching TV today with high definition television. That's what it's like having your cataracts removed.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling how clear everything is and the colors. And it's kind of a metaphor for what's going on in my life. But I was thinking back on, you said something to me in the spring retreat, because I'd come up to you and told you that I'd set my intention to increase my sit time to an hour every day. And you looked at me and you had a smile on your face and you said, just wait. And you kind of alluded to how it has taught me to just let go of so much, just this 1 hour sit every day. I just look so forward to it every morning. And I'm starting to just realize that the harder I've tried to deal with my recovery around my food addiction, the worse things get. If I just relax and just let the thoughts come and go, it's the same thing. Everything I do in my life, if I just relax and let the things come and let them go, life is so much more beautiful. So, if you could just speak to that idea of this renunciation, all the different things that we're learning and studying. I've been doing a lot of studying, reading your books, and Joseph Goldstein's books has just been wonderful. But the idea of just letting go and not judging all the monkey mind stuff that goes on. And it's just gotten so much better for me. It's just kind of amazing. That along with being able to see and everything.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. And I think what you're describing in terms of, letting go of the kind of conflict with what's going on in the mind is something that it just takes time. It's not something that you can force to happen as much as you hear it or, you think you understand it. It can only be experienced in kind of through practice and then seeing it for yourself. So I'm glad that's working for you.
That's what's happening. Totally what's happening.
That's great. And good. I'm glad it sounds like things went well with the medical stuff. So good for you. Jeff, hi. Nice to see you.
There we go. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
I really liked what you said about that delineation between awareness and mindfulness, because I think that line can get really blurred for me. Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm aware I'm craving or striving or whatever, and like kind of pat myself on the back, like, oh, I'm so mindful that I'm resentful or whatever.
Right.
And how different that is. And I was wondering if you could maybe speak to like, okay, so I acknowledge my resentment or I acknowledge feeling angry or whatever. What is the natural path back to? Is it just acknowledge? I noticed you talked a lot about noting meditation. And once I've noted it, it does seem somewhat to dissipate. And I'll mute.
It's a little bit of a, I don't know, where the rubber meets the road, kind of like how engaged we can be to go take that step from awareness into right mindfulness, because it really implies, I think, another level of commitment and really a letting go. And the thing is, it's easy to say letting go, but there's a reason why we're clinging. I mean, and I don't mean that like. I mean, there are causes and conditions behind our clinging that are powerful, and so that it takes kind of a second effort to say, okay, yeah, right, I'm having a resentment. Yeah, okay, fine. It takes this second effort of kind of stepping into the discomfort of the thing. That's, oh yeah, and yeah, I'm really stuck here. This is really unpleasant, and I really need to let it go. And that it's much easier to just kind of look at it, give it a side glance, and then move on. I mean, it also, there's that faith element too. Like how much do I trust in this process? And that's, I kind of recently came to the conclusion that the reason the kind of primary underlying reason why I could never become a monk was that I didn't have enough faith. Because that's what I see in the monks that my monastic teachers is this tremendous faith, and so when you have that faith, you're willing to go through a lot more discomfort, and we can see it with recovery, that when we start to really believe in that, this is going to be worth it. This first 30 days or these first 60 days, people give up because they don't think it's worth it, right? Because they don't have the faith, and again, not a religious faith, but they really trust in that the other side, getting to the other side, will be worth it when we get there. And so I think of that as the thing that holds me back from letting go of the places where I still get stuck. I'm not. There's just not enough faith, and so that's maybe a topic for another day. Faith, yeah.
Right on.
Thanks. And as Frank Zappa would say, it's getting good in the back. Yes. You realize I'm referring to your hair.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. I mean, not to be too sorry, but
all right.
One more, Deborah. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for the meditation this morning. I was kind of keeping track of the elements of right intention. Yeah. I have renunciation. I have loving kindness
and compassion.
Compassion. Thank you.
Yeah.
And on the subject of faith, I follow another tradition as well. And the reading today was about faith and walking on water, and the reaching out to Peter, who started to walk on the water. And then when his faith wavered, he began to sink. And I could feel my foot sinking in the water.
Mm.
And so when you talked about the faith that you see in the monks, and that was the bridge that you couldn't cross to become a monk.
Yeah.
What can you say about about faith to help some of us cross that bridge.
Well, I mean, when I talk about my own faith, it feels like something that's pretty deeply conditioned so that it's not, I don't, in terms of becoming a monk, which is very unlikely to happen for me in this lifetime, it feels like the need, the amount of faith I need is just simply not accessible to me. So I'm not even striving to have that. But where I guess where I go with this somewhat is through the meditation process, to watch what happens as I meditate, and to see that just on this sort of micro level, when I just let go of a thought and I come back to the breath, when I can see how that releases some tension in me, how there's a certain, and in sort of more grandiose language, there's a certain freedom that comes in that moment, temporary freedom, but it's like, yeah, that feels good to just stop obsessing about that, to come back to the breath. That's the microcosm of this bigger point of that letting go is the way to freedom. And so when I can see that happening on that level, I can start to apply it. In other words, I start to believe that meditation works. Means I start to have faith in the process of meditating, of being mindful, of letting go. That whole process, which can sound, I don't know if that's really going to work. Why should I let go? I should probably keep grasping after things if I want to get them. But if I see in my own meditation that it actually works to let go, then I start to trust on this macro level that this is really a guiding principle that I can follow. And letting go, it's the problem of faith, or the issue, excuse me, the issue of faith that I'm talking about is faith in letting go, because that's what the monastic life is centered in, is letting go. And it's my own lack of willingness to let go on that level, right? To let go of being married and being an actively sexual being, and having 3 meals a day, and having money, and owning a car, and letting go of my own perceived freedoms, as a lay person. The faith that I'm talking about is the faith that letting go on that level of all those things that we get to do as lay people, that's actually going to bring more happiness, ultimately. I mean, we could say freedom or whatever, but happiness is kind of what it's about, some fundamental level. So I haven't had enough faith in that, even though I believe, I believe in that. But faith and belief are different in that way. A belief is, for me, as I define it, a belief is just a thought, and it's it's a thought. I believe that the monastic life is actually a happier and way to live, and one that brings more freedom. But I don't have faith. I don't have enough confidence in myself and in that process to do it. So again, the way I work on that is on this micro level of meditation. And that's one of the purposes of meditating, is to see that, when I let go of a thought, it brings a certain amount of freedom. oh, maybe I should let go of more things in my, in a broader way in my life. So, that's what comes to mind right now, but I can talk more about it in coming sessions.
Yes, and the connection between faith, trust, and belief in the context of step 3, I would be really interested in
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
future thoughts on that.
Okay, well, we'll come back to it. We are technically out of time. I'm just looking at a. Oh, is that was this your question, Deborah, about right intention 3L? Yeah. Okay. So, just to remind people that you can make a Dana offering to me through Venmo and PayPal if you like. I will be back on Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Coast time in North America. And coming up in September, I'm going to be in Minnesota at Common Ground Meditation Center on the 24th and 25th. If you are interested, pretty sure I have that on my website, but I may have to check. So, as always, if people have questions or concerns you want to contact me about, you can go to my website and write me an email. Always happy to hear from people. So that's really nice to be back and to have you guys all on my screen again.
Thanks, Kevin. Nice to see you.
Yeah. So, and I that's right. I took up the practice of offering a final thought. So I'll just say for today, notice your intentions whenever you can, and even if it means in retrospect, like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Just look at what's behind those things, and maybe try to start to align a little bit more with right intention. So,
Thanks, Kevin.
blessings, peace. Thank you.